welcome. Whoa, that was probably way too loud.
It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a bit. Welcome. Back in the studios here at allpointstv.com, making it happen here on the Genesee County Compassion Club show. It is 2019. Happy New Year, everybody. We made it through another year, and boy, oh boy, it's good to be here. It's good to be alive. It's good to be back in the studios. So if you don't know, All Points TV had suffered a major catastrophe. Their, what is it, your power pole? Basically.
Yeah, or they call it the mast going into the
mast,
going into the place. Yeah.
Did you know your home has a mast, even if you don't live on the water? And yeah, it broke right off. Freaking thing broke off. So of course it's like a huge ordeal to get that reconnected. You have to get a permit and everything, don't you? Isn't that right, John?
Yeah, like, and it cost over $200 for that. Yeah, just
for the permit.
Just for the permit.
Yeah, just for the permit.
And then so they came in and slapped a sticker on after the electrician was done.
Yeah.
So then ironically, I was almost a full month without power. And I still got a bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still got a bill.
Yeah, it took over a month to fix. So that's why you haven't seen any podcasts from All Points TV or from the Genesee County Compassion Show in a little bit. I've been getting that fixed. So we do have a GoFundMe page set up. If you're interested in helping out, we'd like to bring you guys all the fresh news from the city and around Michigan. It's a good source for information here at All Points TV. If you'd like to help us out, continue running, you can go to the GoFundMe page and help us out with the electrical issue there. So, but obviously things are back running again. We're glad to be back here in the studio and glad to be here in 2019. I'll tell you that. 10 years of this, you know what I mean? 10 years of doing this podcast, I think, John?
Yeah, it's 10 years. And another thing is, too, it's 2019, and we still are just like driving around on cars on surface streets. We're not like the Jetsons yet. I mean, I'm so disappointed. When I was a kid, it was the Jetson, and now there's still got vehicles out there. I mean, I was hoping,
Yeah, no. To your next pod, and then
I still like my dog.
Astro pops out and licks your face.
Yeah, I still like my dog better, Astro. I mean, but whatever. But I mean, we can mix and choose and mix it up.
It's kind of cutting in and out when you talk.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah.
That's all right. Yeah. So yeah, no. In some regards, we're way ahead of what I think people thought we would be at in the year 2019, and I agree with John. I think in other regards, especially for us who are a little bit younger, when we were, I think in school in the 80s, they had this grand scheme or picture they would show us of what the future was going to be like in 2020 or 2030 or even year 2000, and in some ways we're not even close. But at any rate, whatever. I mean, it is what it is. We're still growing every day, and there's lots of opportunity. We've got a new governor, a new attorney general in this state, and I was thinking about it this morning, and a lot of folks have been upset over the MMFLA and how things have gone here with medical marijuana in Michigan. And it has been unfortunate to quite a large degree. And what I was thinking of is how unfortunate it is that we ended up doing all of these changes prior to having this current administration that we have as of yesterday. Things could have been a lot different if we had different people in charge, that's for certain. But they're in charge now, and hopefully we'll see some positive movement forward here in the medical marijuana industry here in Michigan, especially for protecting patients and caregivers in the system. I think that's number one priority. Always has been, always should be, and hopefully we'll see that actually come to fruition now that we have an amicable administration. You know what I mean? Man, it was good holidays. I hope everybody had a good time. I hope you had time with your family and you got to relax, got to recharge your batteries. I know that everybody, hopefully you always got to sit down and watch a football game, watch a ball drop, whatever your thing is. Hopefully you got to spend time with your family. That's the main thing. But the New Year's upon us, and boy, we got some exciting stuff coming up. At the G3C, I'll let you guys know what's happening. We got some good events going down coming up here in this month of January. The first one I want to mention, of course, is our soup kitchen that's coming up very soon, Tuesday. And we're going to be down at the North End Soup Kitchen like we always are, serving it up. So if you guys can help us out, we really appreciate it. We're serving lunch. And if you can be there at 10 o'clock, North End Soup Kitchen, or at the club, and then drive over there either way. But Tuesday, we could use your help. And usually after the holidays is when people usually forget about stuff like this. So, Thanksgiving, Christmas, lots of people step up, and we really appreciate that. But after the holidays, we also need you to help out if you can. It's just a couple hours, and this time around, we really could use your help. So Tuesday, step up if you can, all right? Soup Kitchen. Next thing I want to mention, we have a fun event happening. This is our second event that is going to be open to the public, and it is at the club, of course. This is called the Late Night at the G, and we're having a special band come in. The band is called the Garage Sale Band. You can check out their Facebook page. They do a lot of cover tunes from the 80s and 90s, a little mix of everything, excellent musicians, and it's going to be a lot of fun. This is going to be Saturday, January 19th, starting at 8 p.m. at the club. Doors open at 8. It's open to the public, and it is free. So club members, tell all your friends and family, get on down, all right? You got to be 21 years of age or older to come in. If you are 18 to 21 and you have a medical card, we'll make an exception for you. But otherwise, you have to be 21 years or older. It is a bring your own bud event. There will not be any vending. There is no caregivers set up to meet patients or anything like that. But you will be able to use your marijuana. You can bring your own and have some fun and listen to a great band, hang out, party. It's going to be an awesome night. So that is the 19th, Saturday, 8 p.m. Mark your calendars. Tell your friends. Come on out and hang out at the G. And again, that's free and open to the public. It's going to be a great event, and I hope to see you guys there. Other events that we got going up here, I want to mention a couple that went by actually already that we participated in as a club because you guys made it happen, and you deserve some credit. So the first thing is our Pause for Cause. It's probably still in the club, actually. It's a giant Christmas tree, and it is loaded with all types of supplies for pets. And of course, we're going to be taking this down to the Genesee County Humane Society. Compliments of you guys, G3C members. And also, in addition to everything that you see piled up around the tree there at the club, we also sponsored 2 cages. We do that every year, and that helps pay for the care and the food for 2 cages for the entire year down at the Humane Society. So in addition to that, we're also giving them all those goods that you guys helped us donate, and thank you very much. I know we all love our furry friends. Sometimes they're the only friends we have, right? But they're the best friends, and we are certainly happy and anxious to help out every year. So thank you guys for letting us do that. It's a big deal. And we'll be getting all those items over to the Humane Society shortly. I think we're going to need a Suburban or maybe a couple pickup trucks. But thank you guys. You did a great job, and I know the animals will appreciate it. Another thing I want to mention that you guys helped us participate in that you're probably not aware of, G3C members, we've been doing this now for, I think, 5, 6, 7 years. We sponsor, I think, up to 50 different families here in Genesee County so that they can have a holiday meal for their family. So this is actually through the local church here in Genesee Township is who we work through. They identify families through the school system that are in need of help, and they go out and they make sure that these guys get a full meal, and not just a full meal. It's actually like groceries and things that you need for the holidays. And I think we sponsored up to 50 families here in the Genesee County area, and that was compliments of you guys. So thank you very much, members. You really help out, and I know that it's not something you're going to hear about on the news other than right here, All Points TV. But it's the fact that we did it that counts. You guys made it happen, and I want to say thank you very much. I know the families that got that stuff were very appreciative. So, all right, other events that we got coming up here at the G. I also want to make sure I mention our big event coming up here. This is late night comedy with Darren McCarty. You guys have heard of the Slapstick Comedy Tour. He's going to be performing live with his guest at the club, and this is coming up in February. So look for tickets for that event. I believe tickets are going to be $35 for members. Don't quote me on that. I'm trying to find the flyer here for it. But you can get tickets for it, obviously, at the club. It is going to be another late night event at the club, which means it is going to be open to the public. It will be after hours at 8 p.m. And if you don't know, Darren's been a club member for now, I think 4 or 5 years at the G. He calls it his home. So that means something to us. We're very privileged to have somebody like that be a part of our club and support us. And now we'd like to support him as well. So you guys want to look for a good time out. You can bring your friends, bring your family. It's open to the public. You're going to be able to smoke down and listen and watch Darren McCarty right there in front of you. And, I know that he was performing down at the IMA, which is awesome, but that's a big place, right? And last time I checked, you cannot smoke weed in there. So there's a couple advantages to seeing Darren down at the G. So mark your calendars for that. Check out our Facebook page at Genesee County Compassion Club, and you guys can mark yourself down for the event. Stop by the club and pick up tickets, all right? We'd love to see you there. Okay, that's it for events. That's what's going down at the G. What we have coming up, I know we're going to have other events coming up here shortly, and we'll mention those as soon as we can. Let's get on to some news. I want to get you guys updated. obviously it's been a little bit since we've had a podcast, and there have been a few things that have gone down over the holidays. Obviously, the first thing I already mentioned is we have a new governor, new attorney general as of yesterday. You might have watched the inauguration, maybe you didn't, whatever. But that happened, all right? Another big thing that happened that is a positive thing is that the U.S. Government passed their Farm Bill Act, I guess, whatever it is, their budget, which included a modification to the hemp law. And in addition to that, you here in Michigan voted in November to make hemp farming legal. So there is a new market in Michigan, and this has nothing to do with marijuana. It is not for getting high. It's not for medicinal purposes for the most part. It is for industrial purposes. And if you're not aware, hemp is $1 billion industry in just about any other industrialized nation out there other than the U.S. And the reason for that is because the U.S. has always considered hemp the same thing as marijuana, which in fact it's not. It's just from the same family, so it gets a bad rap. At any rate, we're changing that. We're changing it slowly, and it is happening. There's already been a program that was passed in 2016 that allowed Michigan universities to do research on hemp agriculture. And there has been a similar program that has been functioning very well down in Kentucky now for a couple of years, and in other parts of the country as well. So this is a growing thing across the United States, and we hope to see it especially taking off here in Michigan. I've been told prices as high as $5,000 to $6,000 per acre, which if you compare that to corn and soybean per acre production, that's a huge difference. And obviously this is a growing market. It's brand new. And so right now you're going to hear prices that are going to be elevated because we haven't had saturation occur yet into this. But we expect somewhere the market fall place to come around somewhere between $1,500 to $2,000 an acre, which is still competitive with corn and soybeans. So this is a viable agricultural crop for farmers here in Michigan. It could be a cash crop, a cash cow, if you will, for the first couple of years while everybody's still finding out about it and getting involved. It is a major process. Obviously, you have to have the right land for it. You have to have the right equipment for it. And then the other thing that we are missing here in Michigan is the functionality to process the material. So we could go out and we can buy seeds and we can plant them and grow them and cut them down when they're mature, but we don't have a real way to process this yet. So there's other opportunities in this industry that haven't really come to fruition yet, and there's a lot of opportunity. And I think this is exciting. So it'll be interesting to see how this unfolds. I know that myself, being in a rural community, I have a lot of people asking, there's a lot of interest out there in this. And you can't blame people. I mean, if you took to your average farmer and said, hey, what if I told you you could double the amount of revenue you could create from your fields? Most of them are going to sign up. They're not looking for anything special. They just want some more money for working hard. It's an obvious common thing. So anyways, hopefully we'll see something happen with this in Michigan. Nothing's happened yet. And if you are interested, maybe you should contact Lara, find out what's going on. They haven't issued any rules as far as how to do this, and this is all still brand new. And I have a lot of folks asking about recreational marijuana as well. The same thing there. Lara is in charge at this point, and they have not done anything really. Nothing has been done. So for those of you out there that think, oh, you can just go down to Lara and sign up for your new recreational license, you're full of it. You don't know what you're talking about. From Lara themselves, they expect the application process to begin sometime in early 2020. And that is from the department director's mouth, all right? And they are in charge of this new process. So at any rate, it's going to be some time before these things unfold, but it definitely is exciting to see these opportunities now finally exist here in Michigan, and hopefully some people will be benefited from that, other than people who are already rich, right? Okay, so let's move on. Also want to talk a little bit about the MMFLA. As most of you are aware, the MMFLA is currently licensing any number of different facilities out there. And as of December 31st, according to a former judge order, the protections that were put in place for existing dispensaries that were in the application process for MMFLA license, if they haven't already been approved, then they were ordered to shut down by December 31st. So consequently, if you read the papers today, you'll see that there was over 70 different places in Michigan that were affected by this order. Obviously, this is limiting to the patients here in Michigan and continuing to be, I guess, behind the ball, our state is, in their own process. Now, in reality, are patients having a hard time finding medication? No, I don't think so. And I think that the people who are really upset about these deadlines are the ones who are in the application process. But at any rate, it is still worth pointing out and noting that the state continues to falter, I guess would be the way to go. Here's the licenses that have been approved. There's 99 licenses that have been approved by LARA so far. 2 grower type A's, which is the 500 plant count, the small growers, 2 have been approved. Let's see here. 0 Class B have been approved. That's a 1,000 plant license. Class C, which is a 1,500 plant count, 27 licenses have been issued for that. 10 different processing licenses have been issued. 52 provisioning centers have been given license. 4 secure transporters have been given license, and 4 safety compliance facilities have been given license. So all in all, 99 licenses have been issued. And if you look at what the state had about 4 years ago, that pales in comparison to the number of places that patients had the availability to go to. At one time in Michigan, there was close to 500 dispensaries around the state, especially like in areas like Detroit, Lansing, Flint. We saw them all over the place. And were there too many? Well, we didn't really give the market time to figure that out. The state did it for them, told them to shut down, and here we are. So at this time right now, you have 52 different places in Michigan that are licensed by the state where patients can go to get their cannabis. Let's not forget about the 50,000 caregivers that they also have the ability to go to. And I think that really is the, I don't know what you want to call it, the thing in the closet that nobody wants to talk about, the wool over everybody's eyes, I don't know. But the caregivers haven't gone anywhere. They're still out there. So patients, if you're still looking for cannabis, you can still find a caregiver. And in the meantime, don't let all the hype from the news and whatnot freak you out. It's kind of interesting to see this process unfold. It will be interesting to see it continue to go. And as we move into a recreational market, we'll have to see how these work as well. I wanted to point out a couple comparisons. There's been a video that's been circulating around right now on the internet concerning Oregon and their, I guess, excess of cannabis in their marketplace. Now, Oregon has a very, let's say, liberal policy when it comes to issuing licenses for cannabis cultivation and distribution in their state. The first thing that they did is they let the door open for anybody, and they really made it a wide open process, unlike what you see here in Michigan. And you may say, well, here in Michigan, anyone can apply. Well, anyone can apply who can jump through all the hoops and afford to make it there. In Oregon, it's a lot less restrictive. So we had a lot more people get approved. They still have people waiting in line to get approved in Oregon in spite of the excess of material in the market, which is really astounding, but that's the way it is. People are still trying to get into the business, even though the business is flooded and people are going out of business. And what we're talking about here is they have home cultivation. They also have, like I said, an unlimited number of licenses being issued in Oregon, and the limits for how they're allowed to grow or the number of plants they're allowed to grow are also different in Oregon. And what it has created, as I stated, is an excess of cannabis in the marketplace. On the video, you can watch it for yourself. They talk about cannabis auctions, where distributors or producers who have additional cannabis that they cannot sell on the marketplace take it to these auction houses to have it be auctioned. This is, of course, legal. But these auctions are places where people can get rid of their excess cannabis to other producers or to other distributors. But we're talking about prices here, and the prices that I heard about in the video, $400 for a pound of cannabis. Most of this cannabis, though, I'm sure is outdoor grown, mass produced, and of a lower quality if you were to compare it to some of the premier artisan type cannabis strains and productions that are out there. Even said so by the own people in the video, so I'm not just dissing on their stuff. But at any rate, you can understand the problem with that. Obviously, $400 a pound is not going to be enough to pay the expense of producing that pound. And the businesses, consequently, in Oregon are going out of business. In Colorado, in another comparison, we're seeing extreme competitiveness go on. There was a recent article just saw the other day posted where one of the major producers out there was stating that he thought Colorado law screwed up when they allowed home grows to continue. And that's something that we've allowed here in Michigan as well. Granted, this is from a large producer, distributor in Colorado who would prefer to have less competition. And that's where he thinks Colorado made the mistake for his personal business. But here in Michigan, we have a different program than what Oregon has, and we have a different program than what Colorado has. We have a potential to have either one of those programs going on here in Michigan in the future. And it'll depend on how the licenses are issued, how the market is allowed to grow or not grow, and how law enforcement takes a stance on their administration of the law as well. So we have an opportunity here in Michigan to have a competitive marketplace so that patients can receive the best medication at the best prices. We also have an opportunity to make sure that it is a viable business marketplace here in Michigan as well. And what I mean by that is that we already have a robust patient and caregiver network here in Michigan that cannot be forgotten about. When you have 50,000 people, i.e. caregivers, they don't just go away, all right? And they aren't going to all get consumed by the new licensed facilities. It simply is not going to happen. On top of the Patient Caregiver Network, we also have the new MMFLA Licensed Facilities Act. We see those being licensed more and more. Obviously, they're still behind the ball. But we're seeing very large facilities be licensed, places that are predicting plant garden sizes in excess of 10,000 plants. Obviously, that's a lot more than the 1,500 license that we initially talked about, but they're getting multiple licenses approved for the same facility. And the law says that they're allowed to do so. But I would caution our leaders at the state in approving these types of places. They could be economic disasters. They could very well end up being bankrupt in a few years because they overcapitalized their investment. And what I mean by this is a lot of folks feel, and a lot of the numbers, a lot of the reports, statistics out there show the ability for a future expanding market. And they're looking at the possibility of revenue output in the future. And many folks have heard that Michigan, or at least they believe Michigan has $1 billion industry in cannabis alone. And while I'm not saying that isn't possible, I am saying that there are a lot of different factors that will contribute to that. One of the things right now, whether you want to admit it or not, is that Michigan is the only state in the Midwest that has a decent medical marijuana program and that has recreational marijuana at all. And it is surrounded by states that are not. So clearly, just like you have with Colorado, obviously there's going to be an issue there with diversion. There's obviously an issue there with competition within the state, so you can imagine how things are going to be going out of state. And we have seen licensed places in Colorado be prosecuted for shipping their product out of state, 100% illegal. They had product there in their building that they didn't even have registered in their seed to sale tracking program. So for folks out there that think, oh, well, if you jump through all these hoops and you obey the regulation and you get licensed, then these places are now legit, that's not the truth. Just because someone has a piece of paper on the wall doesn't mean that they're legit. How many doctors have you seen go to prison, right? And it's no different in this industry here. So I think what we need to have is a viable market built for everyone in this industry, but also we need to keep the reins on as well to not let it get out of control so that we don't have this big boom and bust cycle like we've seen in a lot of industries. This is something that Michigan can prevent if we're smart enough about it. Do I think we'll do that? Honestly, no. I don't think that's going to happen. Truth be told, if you want my honest opinion, no, they're going to blow it up. They're going to allow these large places to get licensed, and then you're going to have patient caregivers on top of that. That's just the way it's going to go. But this could take years. I mean, we've seen this process already happen and occur in Michigan for 10 years now. We've certainly made progress, but we've got a long ways to go. And we may see this occur over the next 10, 20 years possibly. We still have, at the federal level, cannabis is still illegal. We still cannot bank. And how these large companies that are doing multi-million-dollar deals and getting approved by the state are doing all that without having banking, I'm not exactly sure how that works, but apparently they're getting it done. So, but at any rate, for us regular people, for everybody else out there, there's still a lot of hurdles to overcome. There's still a lot of obstacles that we need to get over, if you will. And so with that in mind, I think it does create this timeline, and it makes it spread out farther than it really needs to be. But in some ways, that's a good positive thing as well. So One thing about the Oregon video that I did want to point out to a lot of our caregivers here in Michigan, because I think it's going to apply to us in the very near future. There's going to be a divide between a commercially produced product and an artisan craft product. All right, and many of us who have been in the industry for many years understand this. We know that there is a clear difference, and many consumers out there are also aware of this and will continue to become more aware of this, that there are different grades of medication out there, and a lot of that is how that product is produced, but also it also has to deal with other things like how it is, what strain is selected, and the phenotypes that are being selected, so on and so forth. Things that take a lot of time, a lot of care, and a lot of effort. And usually those types of parts of a business are hard to come up with when it comes to being commercially scaled. All right, and you can attest to this. When you go to Walmart, they don't spend a lot of time crafting the items it is that you pick up and purchase, right? And you expect to pay a price because of that. You know that the products are maybe a little bit inferior to maybe your Oliver Tees or something like this, or maybe the clothing isn't quite as nice as if you went to the mall, but you understand this and you don't have a problem with it and you pay accordingly. And that's fine, and there is a market for that, and there's nothing wrong with it. But there's also another market out there, and that is for the people that do want something nicer, that do want to feel like they're getting value for their money spent. And that type of product is an artisan crafted product. And it doesn't matter if you're in cars, furniture, or weed, there is a market for that. And our caregivers here in Michigan have an opportunity to create and to dominate that market. And I implore you to do so. And the way to do that is with good gardening practice skills, with good strain selection, with proper phenotype management. You can have the ultimate garden. And the stuff that you're going to see that is produced commercially, grown outdoors, I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying it's not as good as yours.
The best analogy I could see from this, because I don't smoke weed myself, but it's like...
You should do that.
But it's like a craft beer or a microbrewery.
You're absolutely
comparison to Budweiser, you could get it at your... any convenience store.
Absolutely
yeah,
right.
That's the analogy I see.
Absolutely right.
And it's like
there's breweries over on the west side that are very well known for creating special batches where maybe they only produce so many different casks or so many bottles. It's a limited production. Oftentimes those are sold before they're even on the market. And our craft beer in Michigan, craft wine is the same way. There is a market for that. And people are willing to pay for that because they know, number one, they're getting a superior product, but number two, they also understand that they're supporting a small business here in Michigan, maybe their own neighbor, if you will. So I think there is a big market for that here in Michigan, and I don't think that that is something that your commercial growers are going to be able to capture. They're not going to be able to compete on that level. The cost of doing those types of productions, the time invested in it is just too great. And you can see that. I mean, if you go buy a Ford, it's obviously you don't expect that to be the same quality as a Ferrari. And you certainly don't expect pay the same price for it. And you can have Ford weed and Ferrari weed, all right? So if you're a caregiver, go Ferrari. That's what I'm saying.
That's what I would say, too. Another thing is I can see when the federal government is going to eventually, they have to ease up on the restrictions. I could see people, like when my brother was young, he was like 18, 19, the Coors beer, you couldn't, it wasn't allowed, east of the Rockies.
Right.
And people used to smuggle it in, and literally had to smuggle it in. That was considered
the black market for Coors.
A major coup.
Yeah.
And then for that, and then people
it was supposed to be really good.
Yeah, it was really good. That's what my brother, that's always, they gushed about it. But then, now it's like you go any come to the store, you could probably pick it up. I mean,
I mean, and I tell you, I've been to quite a few hunting camps, and I've never seen Coors. Everybody here gets Bud Light. You know what I mean? So, well, you're right, John. I mean, sometimes the forbidden fruit, the fact that it is a forbidden fruit, if you will, creates its own market just because everybody's like, oh, you got the forbidden fruit. But let's be realistic here. What's better? Marlboro tobacco or, let's say, Cuban-grown tobacco?
It's like everybody still wants the Cuban.
You bet.
I mean, they still want it. The other stuff's more available, less risky to use. I don't even know if they've lifted the restrictions on Cuban cigars.
I think that was lifted years ago. But I just mean in comparison of quality. I mean, obviously, you're going to pay more for the Cuban cigar than you are the pack of Marlboros. But you expect a difference in the quality, and there is a difference. So I want to encourage the patients and caregivers here that are still growing under their Michigan Medical Marijuana Law of 2008 that are still operating as a business, I want to encourage you to keep going, because you can produce something that is unique to the marketplace, something that the commercial growers will never have the opportunity to do. And that's a unique, wonderful thing. And that's what makes small businesses great, is because you can find that craftsmanship that you're looking for, where someone takes the time and the love and the care, puts it into that, and then you can feel that when you get that product from them. So that's a good thing. And Michigan's full of craftsmen, right? We're known for it. All right, that's about all the news I have for you today. I know there's lots of other little things going on around the country. I don't want to get into details. But.
I'd like to bring a point up. Somebody posted on the All Points Facebook page about Pontiac opting out of the medical, recreational. Yeah. Now, was that a provision allowable when they passed the law that the other, localities could, those cities could opt out? It's
a good question, John. Right now you have, actually, according to MLive, if you go on their paper right now, you have 70 different communities across Michigan that are considering opting out of the recreational marijuana law. What that means at this time, and yes, they do have the ability to do that. What that means at this time is that they have, your township cities have the ability to regulate what businesses are operating in their township. Okay, so if you want to have a recreational marijuana distribution facility, okay, you have to have that facility licensed through your township before you can open it up. That's part of the state rules as well. And yes, your city has the ability to ban these, and there are cities across Michigan right now that are scrambling to enact these bans. Now, these bans can be changed just as they can be enacted. And in fact, actually, communities doing nothing are, in a sense, enacting the ban. If you read the law, that's kind of the way it is. They didn't have to opt in. They can opt out, but by doing nothing, they're really opting out as well. So is it unnecessary? Yes, it's unnecessary. But some cities feel they need to go that extra step above and beyond, prohibit any type of recreational marijuana businesses within their city, village, township limits, whatever. And this is something to be aware of, because you guys just voted for this here in Michigan, right? I mean, we had an overwhelming majority support medical marijuana and an overwhelming majority support recreational marijuana. So Michigan voters are hip to weed. There's no question about it. But there's a lot of folks still in power, in seats of administration, that are not. And they want to do everything they can in their power to just get rid of it. They don't want it in their community. They don't want to see it. You do what you want to do in your own home, but they don't want to see it in their town. And that's the truth of it right there. They can't tell you what you can do in your own home. You have the ability to exercise your state law. So you say, well, Pontiac bans recreational marijuana in the city of Pontiac. Doesn't mean people aren't going to be using cannabis in Pontiac. They are. It just means you're not going to see any businesses there on the side of the street. And that's going to be their loss, because there's going to be a lot of other communities around there that will take advantage of it, that will get the revenue from it. And the folks that are in the cities that are banned are going to travel to the other cities to get their business done. All right. And so that money is going to flow out of their area into the next one. All right. And the other thing is that, like I stated, things can change. So let's say Pontiac enacts their ban. A year later, you could have it up for a vote and change it again. All right. It doesn't mean that laws can't change. They can change. They do change. They will change. But yeah, we do see a number of communities around Michigan. Genesee Township's actually one of them that's considering it. Pontiac's another. Over 70 different communities across Michigan right now have either already enacted a ban or in the process of enacting a ban. And I think that's extremely short-sighted. I mean, most of these communities don't even have an idea of what these businesses could be. They haven't taken the time to study the industry, and they're just plain scared of it, and they're still on the 70 years, 80 years of weed paranoia, baloney prohibition. And so it's going to take some forward-thinking, professional, courteous people to help them get educated and maybe help change their minds. So I'd encourage you to do that as well. But you're right, John. There are cities around the state that are getting in on this. They want to ban it as quick as they can. And, I really see that being counterproductive to the democratic process, to the progression of people here in Michigan. It seems like we just had the law pass, and now you want to go right back around and ban it. How foolish is that? And we had our state government trying to do the same thing during the lame duck session. And fortunately, much of that did not go through. Some of it did. But, you know, it goes to show you that there's a lot of folks in charge that really don't care what the public think, and they want to do what they think is right. And it's time that we got people like that out of office. Their job is to represent us. And if us says this is what we want, then they should listen. So if you're in one of those townships, you may need to attend a township hall meeting. Maybe look up their calendar. You might need to make a phone call. And a lot of times that's all it takes. If they get 10, 15 phone calls about the same thing, it's probably the most phone calls they've had all day long, unless they've got a hot button item going on in the township. But for the most part, it doesn't take a lot to blow the whistles in your own township. And if that's what you need to do, I'd recommend you get out there and do it. So thanks for bringing that up, John. It's definitely a good point.
Because I mean, I think that I go back and forth on that. People have said, well, they have a right to opt out, and maybe they do. I mean, you know, I believe that some people do. You have the right to have input from the local citizenry. Okay, I do that. But so basically, it's you know, it's going to be falling about where some places are going to be more liberalized, other ones are not. Right. Going to be more restrictive.
But you have to understand that's the way it is. Know, like you're pointing out there, the township has the ability to make those decisions. The issue is that these are elected officials who oftentimes are acting almost clandestine, where the community really doesn't know what the township has done until it has already done it. And I know that's the way it is across the state oftentimes. Townships don't do a real good job or don't have the avenues to put out what they're working on, what the proposed laws they have, ordinances that they're working on. It's just not a very good way of sharing information. And so oftentimes ordinances get passed in townships, like I stated, without anybody really knowing about it until after it's been passed. And this is probably a bit of a failure when it comes to our democratic process. So we elect these officials to represent us, and then they turn around and make their own decisions regardless of what we think, and do so without even telling us about it. So that is a big concern and something that you have to watch out for. And that's why I say you need to check your own community. You might need to show up at your township hall meeting, okay? Or city hall, whatever it may be. So, all right. Another beautiful year upon us. I wish you all the very best. Glad to be back here at All Points TV. Glad to have this place back and running and everything. It's good to be here. It's good to have avenues where people can voice their opinions for real without having commercials and censors and editors and buyers and all that and the other. It's good to have that. So thank you, John, for being here. All Points TV. Make sure you check out their other podcast if you can. Make sure you check out the Genesee County Compassion Club. Get down there. Hang out. Get a sandwich at our Growing Concern Cafe that is open to the public. Bring your friends in there. Club, obviously, it's still medical. Got to have a medical marijuana card to get in. But don't forget about our late night event, January 19th. It's going to be a blast. Check out our Facebook page for more details. It's open to the public. We'd love to see you guys come down. Get involved, make things happen, and make 2019 your best year yet. All right, guys? Good to see you. Glad to be back here on the Genesee County Compassion Club show. You guys rock. We'll see you.